Morning, Sonoma County Alliance. All right, gentlemen in the back row, please sit down. Stop the game. Well, good morning, everybody. We got a great program ahead of us. Good morning. Good morning. Was the sun shining today? Hold on to that, because Saturday it goes away. Right? So before we begin, I just want to say we have a great program today. My name is Paul Yeomans. I'm your 2024 president. And before we begin, we'd like Ali Spitzer to join and start us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ali. So in honor of our original indigenous inhabitants, I share the following land knowledge. As persons living in Sonoma County and with gratitude, we recognize that we are on the ancestral lands of the coastal Miwok, Pomo, and Wapu, who are the original caretakers of this area. We respectfully acknowledge the indigenous people who have been stewarding and maintaining these relationships on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. So today, in celebrating diversity in Sonoma County, because diversity is aspirational to our county, in honor of celebrating the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month at the Sonoma County Alliance, our DEI committee has created a video based upon interviews with Sonoma County business leaders with a focus on collaboration. Collaboration is one of Sonoma County Alliance's core values. With that, we have two people on the video, and I'm proud to say I've worked with both of them throughout at different points in my career. In the video, we have Dr. Frank Chong and TJ Lowe. And with that, please listen to their comments.
Collaboration is dependent on trust building, and when you trust one another and you know that you can know that the person that you're dealing with is authentic, can trust you, and that you're trying to meet the same ends, and that you're ethical. I think those are some of the things you look for when you want to collaborate with somebody. By really meeting people out in our community, by being a part of the community, and really seeing people face to face. That's really where a lot of our collaborations happen, is a conversation across the table. Conversation as you're, at another meeting, and then developing it from there. Eastern thinking is not competing as much as collaborating, and that there doesn't have to be a winner and a loser. There could be people that everybody wins, and so I've always kind of embraced that concept.
I want to thank Dr. Frank Chong and TJ Lowe for taking the time and participating in supporting the Sonoma County Alliance. Collaboration is an important part of what we are. It's a core value, and it's probably one of the main reasons a lot of us come here today, once a month, to sit around the tables, say hi, get to know each other a little better, share experiences, and help the community grow in the right way. So thank you all for showing up. So thank you, Don and Alejandro from Sound Ideas, for always doing the videos. If you ever need to see the meeting one more time, we do put it on our website. If you want to tell other members or friends to let them know what we are doing every month and why we show up, it's a great way for them to experience one of our meetings. So thank you to our sustaining members. The Sonoma County Alliance is a volunteer organization, and we have a lot of committees within this organization. So I want to thank all the chairs to the many, many committees we have. And I'd like to thank one person individually today who puts in hours every month, drives us as volunteers, and really makes a difference in where we are today and where we're going tomorrow, and that's time limit. If you're a new member, please reach out to Ty. We're always looking for new ideas, new people on our committees. It helps drive us, it helps keeps us relevant. So with that, I'd like to bring Ty up with her executive report.
All right, good morning, thank you. It was unexpected. I also want to shout out another one of our committees that created those DEI video series. Our DEI committee started this about 1.5 years ago, and we've had the pleasure of interviewing about 30 diverse community leaders to learn new perspectives, to build bridges, and I'm really grateful for those who have offered their time. There's so many people in this room that have participated, so thank you for that. My executive director report is short today because I'm donating my time to Mick to talk about Bocce for Books. So I'm going to push through with a few upcoming events. We have our GMM next month. It's going to be with the Press Democrat. And then tomorrow is our skate pack golf tournament. We still have a foursome or 2 left, so if you want to get on the greens tomorrow, let me know. We'll get you signed up and get you going. On the 31st of May, we have the AI workshop. This is a follow-up from the program we did in February, where we offered a glimpse at how AI is building more efficient businesses. Now we're going to let you have a chance to bring your laptop and actually utilize the tools that we have out there to maximize efficiency in your business. This is a partnership with WSI Smart Marketing, Ryan. Woo! Give a little wave. They are a globally recognized marketing firm. Ryan is a dear friend and a great member of the Alliance, board member and upcoming president, so thank you for that, Ryan. And then, of course, I'll let Mick talk about Bocce for Books when I get him up here. Here's a little snapshot of the AI program. It's on the 31st from noon to 1 p.m. at Sonoma Clean Power's Advanced Energy Center. This is on 4th Street. And you'll be able to register for that at our website, SonomaCountyAlliance.com. For members, it's $35. For non-members, it's $50. But this program is going to get launched elsewhere through Ryan's organization for hundreds of dollars. So take the opportunity now. You're going to be really upset if you miss it and have to pay hundreds later. So get the information, get your tickets, it's limited seating. And then I want to end with a little call to action. We are in a growth period right now with the Alliance. I just chatted with our friend Lisa Cranio, and we talked about the differences of belonging and inclusion. And what she told me, much more eloquently than I'm going to share it with you, is that belonging is when people are able to come and help build the platform. They're there to help build and shape it, so their perspectives are involved and included. Whereas inclusion is inviting people to come to an established system. We're in a period where we are building, and we want to bring voices here. So please be sure to bring your friends, sit at those tables, and let's really grow with the perspective of all the community in mind. So that's how I'm going to wrap this up, and I'm going to pass it off to Mick. Thank you, guys.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, man. On your tables, you're going to see a flyer announcing our Bocce for Books event. Bocce and Barbecue, Taft Street. Your education committee started about 7 years ago. We took a couple of years off due to the pandemic, but thus far, we've contributed almost $68,000 back into the community to address literacy in our students. And we're trying to do our part. We've donated to everything from college tea programs to equipment, teachers' wish lists, bookmobiles, little libraries. And last year, we had the pleasure of donating to Abraham Lincoln Elementary School a book vending machine. We're going to talk a little more about that in a moment. But first of all, let me just recognize a small group of people who've stepped forward each and every year since we started the Education Committee. Ken LaFranchi, is Ken in? in the audience today? Ken? There he is, right there. Ken has been a staunch supporter of education in our community. We've had support from Exchange Bank, Summit State Bank, and Pacific Advisors, my company. But what we're trying to do this time is maybe create a little excitement amongst banks. So we're going to try to do our best to get a bocce competition amongst not only Exchange and Summit State Bank, but maybe Redwood Credit Union, and ask some of the other banks in the area to support our efforts in addressing this problem. The person really most responsible for assisting us and helping children are Mike and Susan Martini. I don't even know if Mike's here today, but
Not here.
oh, he is here. He's hiding. He usually sits up here. Anyway, not only do they donate the food, the majority of the food for the day, but they donate the premises and excellent, excellent wine. If you've never been out to Taft Street, I encourage you to go out there and support their efforts, because they support our efforts. So thank you, Mike, very much. I want to share with you a couple of statistics that were really alarming. We went to the California Alternate Assessment website, and they're monitoring the progress of students in California by counties. And I went to Sonoma County, and it said for class year 2022 to 2023, all grades in Sonoma County, students who were at grade level for English, language, arts, literacy, all grades, 21.3%, Sonoma County. Mathematics, 15%. 11th graders, again, they're seniors this year. They were at 10% for English, language, and arts literacy. And for math, they were at 12.5%. Third grade, a little better, 24%, 12% for math. These are frightening statistics. Frightening. I mean, we've got to do something. Our future's at stake. We've got to help these kids learn. That's why I'm asking you for your help, because we need you to go out there and support our efforts. 100% of the money that we raise goes to support these kids. I want to read to you a couple of comments real quickly from students at Abraham Lincoln Elementary. One student who chose the first book in a series was so excited and motivated, told the principal he's building his own home library collection and hopes to receive all books in the series via book vending machine program. One student told the principal that he reads the first book he received from the book vending machine. He read it to his mom, and now they're able to go to the library together. She's learning. He's learning. Again, a book vending machine can play a significant role in addressing the unique needs of low-income students and promoting equity in education by ensuring that they have access to the resources necessary for academic success in literacy development. For $1,000 at our event, you will buy a table, 100% tax deductible, buy a table, support these kids. Our goal with this event is to raise $18,000. And the reason $18,000 is so important is that we've identified 3 additional schools, if I can find them. We've identified 3 additional schools that we want to make sure that they get a book vending machine. Albert Biela Elementary, student population 215, low-income students 79%, English language learners 47%. The second school, Brook Hill Elementary, over 300 students, 82% are low-income, 56% English language learners. And the last one will be Helen Lehman Elementary, over 400 students, 69% low income. Help us help these kids. It's a fun day. You'll enjoy it. It's a blast. 100% tax deductible. Help us help these kids. Thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you, Mick, Ken, and Mr. Martini Ashtree for all the work you do for the Education Committee. With that, we're going to do introductions, so please, as we come by the table, stand. If you have a guest, offer your business card, because there is wine and beer to choose from at the end of the introductions. My name is Paul Yeomans. I'm the Senior Lending Officer at Exchange Bank.
Good morning, Brian Bucksbaum, Next One Staffing. Brandon Jewell, CTE Foundation. Pleased to have as our guest one of our newest members, Roberto Rodriguez Cruz.
Jen Collini, Leach Solutions, a division of George Peterson Insurance.
Kathy Goodacre, CTE Foundation.
Good morning. Good morning, Mick Menendez, Press Democrat Editorial Board, the Pacific Advisors. I have a guest this morning, Lisa Alexander, Executive Director, Made in Santa Rosa Educational Foundation. Welcome.
Amy Carter, Sonoma County Superintendent of Schools.
Good morning, Janet Connors, Summit State Bank, immediate past president, and my guest today is Oscar Chavez from the Community Foundation, Sonoma County. Melissa Galliani, Wine Country Radio.
Sherry Granzato, Wine Country Radio, Exitos Latino, Crush, and Bob FM.
Eric Whitmer's Sonoma County Office of Education.
Linda Bone, Summit State Bank.
Good morning, Kelly Ray, Wine Country Radio.
Tony Alvarez, past president.
Good morning, Dick Dowd, past president and current chairman of the Water Supply Committee.
Danny Sheehan, board member and Friends of Smart.
Ryan Kelly, WSI Smart Marketing.
Tom Clemmer, Clemmer Construction Company.
Howard Dalton, good morning, lots of things.
Art Dexter, LeDuc and Dexter, and Super Service Plumbing.
Jeff Owen, Exchange Bank.
Mark Stapp, Sonoma State, Santa Rosa City Council.
Good morning, Arthur Cheney, President of the Blackville, Sonoma County. My guest this morning, Mr. Andre Bailey, retired after 33 years of higher education at Sonoma State.
Joe Gaffney.
Rob Sandville, KLH Consulting.
Pete Leskier Engineers.
Ali Spitzer, Exchange Bank, and then I brought a guest, my sister, Sarah Lampenfeld from the Sonoma County Office of Education.
Frank Grass, Commercial Real Estate.
Chuck Root, Double Eagle Financial, where cash is still king.
Doug Williams, retired.
Larkin O'Leary, Common Ground Society.
Justin Hunter, Holly Construction. Rex Barney, Holly Construction. Don Mills, Sound Ideas Media.
Marcel Delagnas, BC Engineering Group.
Lisa Carino, United Way of the Wine Country.
Jason Lee, Sonoma County Office of Education.
Rick Carlisle, BKF Engineers.
Deborah Myers Wellness, bringing programs for kids to let go of stress and anxiety.
Roy Martinez, Exit Strategies Group, and member of the Board of Directors of PEP Housing.
Kevin Marks, CFA Structural Engineers.
Steve Clegg, Bauer Associates. Drew Fajan, ZFA Structural Engineers. Carl Service, TLCD Architecture.
Good morning, Kevin Jones from Fast Signs. My guest this morning is Nina Hurd from Next Step.
Good morning, my name is Tom Kostowski, Affordable Housing Associates. I'm a housing developer and consultant.
Good morning, Ramsey Brown's Exchange Bank.
Amber Heideke, the Zones After School Program.
I'm Kevin Zuko, ZFA Structural Engineers. I have a guest, my friend since Santa Rosa High School days, Jeff Gosby. He's the president of the Rican Valley School District Board and a senior VP at Morgan Stanley.
Good morning, Victor McKnight, Risk Strategies, and I have a guest, Taylor Fletcher with 4Cs, Community Child Care Council of Sonoma County.
Rosie Padilla, North Bay Biz Magazine.
Good morning, Lori Rooney, North Bay Biz Magazine.
Brian Barrett, New York Life and Eagle Strategies.
Good morning, David Brown, Adobe Associates, Civil Engineers and Land Surveyors.
Kelly McGuire, Real Estate, Life and Health Insurance, and a lot more.
Rosa Reynosa, Leap Solutions, and on my free time, I'm the mayor of Town of Windsor.
Tony Bisman, 707 Promotions.
Good morning, Haley Bly with Boys and Girls Clubs of Sonoma Marin.
Mark Hale, Carlisle Macy.
Conrad Fernandez, Fidelity National Title.
Dan Rosacci with Morgan Stanley.
Ernest Burkhoff, broker and CEO at Burkhoff Realty.
Kimberlyn Moffett with Community Matters.
Erica Vogel with Community Matters.
Teresa Scott with Western Health Advantage.
And David Pierce with Canopy Health.
Mark Nelson, Mid-State Construction.
Heidi Ower, Leap Solutions.
Sandra Ormerod, Sotheby's International Realty.
Katie Dillwood, Christopherson Builders.
Tracy Emmerich, Leap Solutions with a division of George Peterson Insurance.
Carly Rodriguez, Mid-State Construction.
Ken LaFranchi, Architect.
Morning, Aaron Smith with Adobe Associates.
Lisa Wicki Schafter, North Coast Builder Exchange and the Alliance Board.
Kurt Nichols, retired past president, and I have a guest this morning, Pauline Block, Director of Development Marketing with Cornerstone Properties.
Good morning, Mike Martini, Taft Street Winery, host of the Bocce the sport where you can compete without having to put your wine glass down.
Brian Lane, Commercial Residential Real Estate Broker.
Jeff Harrison, Sonoma County Resource Recovery, Windsor's Refuse and Recycling Company.
Scott Kincaid, Facility Development Company and Sonoma County Alliance Political Action Committee Chair.
All right, we have Nina Hurd and Oscar Chavez. It's funny how people charge up when they know it's alcohol, right? You know the wine. It's only 7 o'clock in the morning, so we don't get it. And the beer is really good. It is. It is my pleasure to introduce our discussion on state of education of Sonoma County today. Crucial updates on school safety, districting, inclusion, and workforce readiness. With that, we have two people that are joining us today. The first one speaking is Larkin O'Leary, Chief Operating Officer of Common Ground Society. Larkin is a Sonoma County native, has been a credentialed teacher since 2004, has taught various grades from preschool through middle school until she resigned to take care of her son in 2020. She currently is serving as a voting member on the Sonoma CAC and is Vice President of the Social Media Director of Common Ground Society, a member of Sonoma County Alliance, as well as our presenter today. Larkin was inspired to create a change while raising his son, James. She believes in the importance of inclusion for all people and is on, sorry, I have to turn the page, a mission to change the narrative. Her tagline is, "You don't know what you don't know until you know," which explains in her TEDx talks, fostering differences on common ground. With that, I'd like to invite Larkin up here.
Well, that was basically my whole presentation, so thank you. Let's get it set up here. Yep. All right. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I am happy to be here and talk. I am Larkin O'Leary, and as Paul said, I am local Sonoma County born and raised, only going away to get my teaching credential and come back to my hometown, Santa Rosa. I am a mom to James and June Bell. James has Down syndrome, and he has an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, which helps his team support his academic and behavioral needs. He is in 3rd grade, and he's fully included in his class, which means he's in a general education class, along with his typically developing peers. June Bell is 4 years old, and she's in TK, in the same school as James in Rankin Valley. While she is part pterodactyl, part Tasmanian devil, she's considered neurotypical, and meaning she doesn't have any learning disabilities. We chose the school that we chose because we wanted to have open and honest, clear communication with what school would look like for James. As a teacher of nearly 20 years, it was important to me to be able to have that clear and open, honest communication with people who are working with my kids. Being someone who's been both a teacher and now a parent, I get that people in education go into education because they love kids, right? They love that aha moment, and they love teaching. But this can often get misconstrued because of the lack of services, the lack of personnel, and our general system that's built on inequities and lack of understanding that one modification for one kid can actually really benefit our entire community. Educators understand that we are often stuck in an underfunded, under-respected profession. But parents sometimes don't understand the complexities and nuances, and I don't think our community often does either. That comes with our educational reality. Our system has these built-in inequities based on our own ableism, which is a term that I didn't even understand until I didn't recognize existed until I saw it in myself as an educator and a community member. Ableism is defined as a discrimination against able-bodied humans. And my mantra is, you don't know what you don't know until you know. And so I continue to work on my own ableism every single day. And I hope it's important to remind you that we need to value all perspectives of and contributions of all citizens when we are making important decisions on how Sonoma County is going to create a community where everyone feels like they belong in all spaces. So let's think about where we are as a society today, right? Everyone in our society, there are adults that, this is different. Everyone in our society, there are adults who used to be children who fit into these different categories. So as I go through these categories, I want you to think about your workforce, and which ones pertain to your employees, your clients, your customers, and your colleagues, and even yourself, right? So we have English language learners, which is pretty self-explanatory. These students come into our educational system, our classroom, and they're learning English along with everything else, as well as oftentimes a second culture, right? There are students with IEPs or 504s, so these are students who have different academic needs or academic needs that need to be scaffolded in a specific way to help them succeed. There are many undiagnosed students in our classrooms, and that is, I happened to be one of those growing up. I didn't know that I had ADHD, and learning was hard for me. Had I been met where I was at, I would have been more successful. We have students above grade level and GATE students. GATE students are gifted and talented students. And as much as these students make progress every year, these students are also being left behind because teachers don't have the capacity to be trained to support them to further their learning. So they do what they do because they're good at what they do, but imagine what we could do with our students who are gifted and talented if we had the resources to push them even farther, right? Students with trauma and anxiety, well, look at our community, that's all of them, right? And I'm talking about the collective trauma in our community. Students have faced these last 7 years. We're talking about the fires, the floods, the pandemic, and that's just collective trauma. You don't think about what goes home when a lot of these students are home alone because both parents are working, right? And don't have the opportunity to sit down and help like I got when I was younger. Students with behavior plans, these are students whose behaviors may impede their learning, and so a team comes together to work with them to help them with their education. And then we have foster youth and socioeconomically disadvantaged. When students are not met where they're at, we are setting them up to fail. As we've seen in the recent articles, as Mick was talking about, with the educational levels of our students, this is a lot of our student population that we're talking about. So given, when our brains are processing trauma, learning is so hard. And given the current population of students in our modern world, we must find new ways to reach our students. We can't do what we've always done. At this moment in time, nearly all of our students have barriers to accessing education. So how do we reach them all when they are all so different and complex? This is why we need to fund our educational system in a sustainable way. We are at a time when our one-time COVID money has ended, but the trauma hasn't, right? And we're seeing that effect in our students. Teachers are overwhelmed, and as much as their districts try and support them, there just isn't the workforce or substitutes available to allow for training to teach our ever-evolving neurodiverse population. One question I often hear is, well, if your student is getting supports, right, does that take away from my student? So there is over 40 years of research that shows that when students are educated in diverse learning classrooms, it enables everyone to thrive. The supports that are put into place with students who have extra visual and kinesthetic options benefit all students, and you think particularly about those undiagnosed students who have no extra supports at all, right? When teachers are trained to differentiate, it not only helps students who have learning disabilities, but also those high-achieving students I was talking about earlier, who are often left behind because they already know the curriculum and they're being taught, and although they're making that year's progress academically, they're not really growing as much as they could be. An example I love to use is this curb cutout analogy. This curb cutout was made specifically to allow for people who use wheelchairs to allow access to our community. And as wonderful as that is, who else does that curb cutout help? Walkers, runners, jumpers, that's new, but it probably does. Skateboarders, people walking with luggage, right? The list is endless. This simple modification that allowed access for people in wheelchairs in turn helped so many other people in our community. And this is just the same in school and in life, as one simple modification that allows access for someone can really help so many others. Sometimes when we talk about inclusion, we can find it surprising that California is really not doing so well in terms of including people with disabilities. We are significantly behind the national average, and the state in our local community. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that was developed and mandated in 1970s mandates that students with disabilities are entitled to a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. When passed, the IDEA committed to the federal government ideally funding 40% of the cost. However, the federal government consistently funded far below that 40% benchmark. And this is a breakdown presented for California by the whole West Ed in 2020. As you can see, the majority of funding for the special education class comes from the districts themselves. Show me your budget and I will show you your priorities. We need to think about what we're prioritizing at this time because we are not prioritizing our future. The point in all of this is to help our community see that where diversity is key, we often fail to recognize disability as part of that community. Despite it being one of the largest minorities that there is, and the only minority any single one of us can fall into at any moment in time. We cannot talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging without talking about disability. If we fail to consider the enormous benefits that people with disabilities can bring to our community, it starts with the school system. With a system that is set up to exclude. We exclude from funding, support for teachers, curriculum, separate settings, and that's just to name a few. Our world needs all different types of people. Just in this room alone, we all have different strengths and challenges. And trust me, you don't want me doing your taxes. We must start thinking about the fact that we all have these different strengths and challenges, and we all have something beautiful to add to our community if only we are brave enough to recognize it. So think back to all of those clients and customers and employees who fit that list I mentioned earlier. And imagine if they had grown up in a community and participated in an educational system from kindergarten to college where they were supported and accepted just from the beginning. Just imagine the world that we could create. At Common Ground Society, we share the stories of our lives to educate and empower our community to be more inclusive, compassionate, and accepting of people with disabilities. Common Ground Society ensures that all families feel a sense of belonging through meaningful connections and local support. Thank you for taking the time to listen and take in the things that I talked about today.
Love adjustable microphones. So next we have Dr. Amy Carter, Sonoma County Superintendent, Sonoma County Office of Education. Dr. Carter was elected Sonoma County Superintendent of Schools on November 8, 2022, and took office in January 2023. A native of Utah and longtime resident of Petaluma, she joined Sonoma County Office of Education after 2 years as Assistant Superintendent of Education Services for Marin County Office of Education. Before that, she served as Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Education in the Novato Unified School District and Principal of the Rancho Cotati High School and Thomas Page Academy in Cotati-Rono Park Unified School District. Dr. Carter is a mother of 5 daughters who has 2 grandchildren. It's a lot. That's a lot. Dr. Carter, a mother of 5 daughters, yeah, wow. She's the first woman to hold the office of Sonoma County Superintendent in 100 years and is the first LGBTQ person known to have held this office. I'd like to welcome Dr. Carter. Thank you.
Thank you, Larkin. Larkin's advocacy in our county has just made such a difference, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more about that later in my slides, but you know, the work involved in those inclusionary efforts are really taking root in our county, and it's exciting to see, and thank you, Larkin, for all you're doing. All right, so what does the Sonoma County Superintendent of Schools do? That's the question I get constantly, and it's complicated. So in education code, there are some privileges and some rights and some opportunities that my office has, particularly when districts aren't making progress. So in 2013, there was some legislation that said if districts aren't making academic progress, that the Sonoma County Office of Ed can kind of step in and be a partner for that work. And we do have about half of our counties are involved in that work. The other responsibility that we have in education code is if schools fail to make their budgets. And when that happens and we see deficit spending or we see things that sort of jeopardize the financial health of a district, there are some pretty intense powers that we have to help correct that. And then beyond that, the state legislature loves to write us into odd sections of Ed Code to really help districts kind of move along in some of the initiatives and priorities that they have. We have about 350 employees and a budget of about $75 million to do this work. And I do serve under a county board. The county board is largely an appellate board. So if there's a district decision made by a school board that might need to be questioned, it comes to my board and they get to look at not the substance of the case, but really were proper education code policies followed in that regard. And together we enact really our agenda to help support Sonoma County. On your desk you have our Sonoma County really report. Every year we really like to inform the community of the work that we're doing, and so some of those are on the tables throughout the room. Not every table I see.
They're on a table outside.
And they're on a table outside. Also, if you get a copy of the Press Democrat on Sunday, you'll get a copy of that. But that really dives deeply into some of the initiative and work that we're most proud of and that we really think are advancing outcomes for students. Everybody knows we have 40 districts in Sonoma County. Probably after what does the Sonoma County Office of Ed do, the second question is, why do we have so many districts? It's just kind of a part of history, you know. We're a county that started with small rural districts, and we started our own boards to support that. And it's something that we really just haven't been able to get away from. There's a lot of strength in that local leadership. But many of you know that the Santa Rosa School Board commissioned a report to look at what would happen if that Sonoma County or Santa Rosa School District footprint merged and just became one massive district. So that report exists. We went ahead and funded that report just to make sure that the community had the best information around that. It's available online if you're at all curious. I'd say the highlights there are, yes, there could be an opportunity there. What would happen is if voters decided to get that on the ballot, that all those districts, their 17 feeder districts, would be absorbed into one large district. There is some state funding that gets lost in that merge, and all of those local small boards disappear. So you get an opportunity for savings because you're eliminating the expenses of the superintendents, you're eliminating the expenses of all the district district offices that we have. But also there's a need to right size in that effort. And a district about that size has, a good 20 plus schools fewer than we have in that footprint right now. So it could be a complicated journey, but in the end it could, with those cost savings, could yield some better financial outcomes for that district. I think what else I want to say about that. It really takes a community effort to get that on the ballot. And we've heard from some of our local small boards that they really do like that small local decision making. And they're not prepared to give that away. And of course, each of those footprints would have to vote themselves into that. So it's complicated. The report's online if you're at all curious. There's a second report that's taking place in Sonoma County. We did have a group of community individuals that asked the Sonoma County Office of Education if we could help them give accurate information about what would happen if in West County we pulled out the El Molino district, the Annalee district. If you all remember, years ago, the El Molino school closed. Those students went over to Annalee to kind of create a larger school there. And so members of that community are just interested, like, what would it look like if we separated those again? You know, you do have two smaller schools, high schools in that regard. You know, you kind of lose the football team. There is a debt associated with the new El Molino High School, and so we're really kind of helping that community get the best information possible around that scenario. So both of these things are just reports. They just sit on a shelf. There's no action politically or otherwise that's tied to it. So what it would take is someone to get excited about the contents of that report, either get signatures or get boards to agree to get that on the ballot to move that forward so that our community can make a choice about that. At this point, I'm not aware of any efforts to do either of those things, but just something to be aware of that dialogue is taking place in our county. All right, we can circle back on that if anyone has questions. At the Sonoma County office, we also get the opportunity to work directly with students. We run student programs. Two in particular are related to our alternative education. So when there's times that students might not be able to be educated by their home district, usually tied with disciplinary elements or you know, problems with behavior, they then get referred to us, and we have these small, intensive alternative high schools where we really take a more strongly therapeutic approach. We focus more on credit recovery, and we really want for that child to kind of turn the story from, you know, I'm an unsuccessful student, to know, like, you have great skills, and there's a future for you. A lot of that work is always career related, helping spark their excitement about careers and opportunities, getting hands-on experiences. So that's a program that we're really proud of. And also, we do educate our most intensive needs students, those students with IEPs that Larkin spoke about. Those that their IEP team, for whatever reason, have decided that homeschooling setting is just not the right one for them. So we do see a lot of medically fragile students, and those students you know, can range all the way up to the age of 22. We have a third school, the North Coast School of Education. This is where we help anybody with a bachelor's degree get a teacher credential. So if you know any drifting millennials with a bachelor's degree, don't have a life purpose, I can tell you this is a career that's incredibly rewarding, and we can help them get that credential simultaneously while they're working, and we can get it for them at a discount. So our North Coast School of Education is constantly out there. One of their priorities, of course, is recruiting educators of color. We know when we have educators of color at the front of the classroom that there's a benefit, not just for our students of color, but all students do better when we find those educators. So we're constantly seeking them. We do have a scholarship fund for individuals that fit that profile, because that's exactly who we want to get into our classrooms. And then most recently we had launched a school safety and partnership program that I'll talk a little bit about. My platform for this office was really to focus the Sonoma County Office of Education on 3 priorities. First of all, safety. if we've learned anything from the fires, the pandemic, it's that we just need to be prepared. We need a nimble team that's ready to mobilize in the face of any disasters, any hardship. And so we do have a standing team now at SCO related to safety. And focusing on access and opportunity, making sure that our young people are going into college and career, and finding new ways to do that and strengthen that throughout our community. And making sure that all young people feel included and a part of their classroom culture. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a second. Larkin really did a good job portraying for you where modern educational thinking is around students that have disabilities and have those IEPs. And really, research shows that the best place for them is with their peers. That's where they thrive. And when you take them out of those spaces and you put them into more intensive, classrooms, it's kind of the image of where those students would be educated in the 70s and 80s, that really results in poorer outcomes for those students. And there is a benefit for their peers when they're able to work with differently abled people. They become more inclusive, they become more aware of those needs, and they become advocates for those students. And it's one of the most beautiful moves in education that I see happening. So because of that effort, the programs that exist at the Sonoma County Office of Education are shrinking. This year we shrunk 5 classrooms, and that is not a small amount. In 4 years we've gone from about half the number of students there. At the same time, the cost for our program has doubled. So you can see a lot of economic factors, cultural factors, legal factors, are shifting the story for those students, and that is an incredible thing. And I think as a county, we're all really proud of that, and seeing that vision is being lived out in our districts. There's more to go. There's much more on that journey to go, but I think we're trending in the right direction that way. We do something called the Youth Truth Survey. If you're a parent, you know about these. But what we've started to do in the last few years is we ask every student in our Sonoma County schools to give us feedback. And when we do that, we're able to really target specific trends that we can go after collectively. This is their opportunity to give us their feedback, their suggestions, their criticism. We spend a lot of time with that data and use it to map our futures. And one of the things that's really emerged from that is the school and culture partnership. So I talked about my safety team. My safety team really stood up. It was kind of this concept that we were playing with, but after the tragedy of Montgomery, we really had to mobilize. We had to mobilize quickly. And one of the things that we found in the course of that effort is that there's a preventative value in a strong school culture. So if you have a school culture where students feel safe, students feel engaged, they feel like there's at least one teacher, class, club, CTE class, dance class, where they feel like they are in community, they are seen, they are valued, that your threat of violence just plummets. And so we're really focused on how do we work with schools to build an engaging culture where everybody is seen and heard. Our Youth Truth data tells us that there are 2 population groups that in particular are not feeling connected to their school community. The most dominant one is our African American students. We repeatedly hear from them that when they come to our schools, they feel othered. They don't see those connections, that bond. There's a part of school that doesn't feel like it's there for them. In our Hispanic community, we're about 50-50. There's about half of our Hispanic community that says, yep, school is for me, I'm a part of everything that's happening here. And about half that still feel like, you know what, these schools are not made for me, and I don't feel those connections. So that's an area of huge focus. We're talking with our principals and our superintendents around how do we change that story, right? And what are those sort of subtle or not so subtle obstacles that are embedded in our organization that are marginalizing these youth? I tell people that my son-in-law, the father of my two grandchildren, he came over from Mexico, and what he says about schools was he said, everything about schools told me I didn't belong. And I think that is the experience of some of our students, and we've really got to change that story. We've got to make them feel a part of the culture for them to thrive. So that's a real focus of that group. I'd say beyond that, we're working with the Sheriff's Office, with law enforcement around how can we standardize our response to schools. There were a lot of lessons learned in the response to Montgomery and to some of the other issues that we've seen happen in our schools. And we're taking all that and we're working to improve our relationship with law enforcement so that when law enforcement is called to our schools, they understand exactly what to do. We heard a lot from our young people, particularly in the Santa Rosa listening sessions, that every time that we're going on the all-call and saying shelter into place, that we're re-traumatizing them. That these young people, and it's heartbreaking to think about, but when we say shelter in place, their minds go to some horrible places, as you can imagine. I think ours do too, as parents. And to sit in a room quietly, not knowing what's happening, not knowing if you're experiencing a Columbine situation or a Sandy Hook situation, is traumatic for those young people. And so our team has worked with something that has come to us from another county nearby, San Mateo, to create a more leveled intervention so that we can let our young people know we're shutting down for a moment, but that doesn't mean that there's any threat of danger. There's just a situation that has to be resolved. Or, you know what, we're shutting down and it's because, it's kind of a lower level threat. Or if we call the highest level, we're shutting down and that's because we feel that human life is in danger. Our young people are responding to that. They're appreciating that there's some sort of information for them in those moments. And it's unfortunate, but it is the lived experience right now in modern education that these kind of precautions have to take place. So we're working really hard to strengthen that. We have a partnership with Community Matters around building safe school officers, shout out. And these are young people that are on our campus. Oftentimes we select young people who have influence in different social groups to be those advocates for safety, to know who they can talk to flag for us when those events could be brewing, and it's a strong precautionary measure that is happening throughout our county, Petaluma to Cloverdale, to strengthen students, to help them feel empowered, and to really get after that problem in a strong way. Because as a former high school assistant principal, I can tell you the kids always know what's going on. And this is a way to leverage those insights so that we can do a better, more targeted job. All right, we're always focused on college and career readiness. I think, again, this is one of the most exciting trends in education is the state is pushing down policies that are really pushing the TK-12 system into relationship with our junior college, into relationships with our four-year colleges, and into relationship with business and private partners. And so we're really looking at how do we build pathways so that our senior year, instead of those kids taking an English class and kind of hanging out, having a good, fun year without a lot of academic substance, that year is the transition year for a very hard handoff to a university system. So there are programs that we're putting in place so that those young people graduate not only with their high school diploma, but with a college transcript, and that they have spent time on our campuses. They understand, once you take a young person to a college campus and they see kids hanging around, drinking coffee, riding skateboards, and professors that engage with them in a lively way, like oh, this is for me, right? College is not some ivory tower thing, like, it is my jam. These are clubs that I belong to. These are kids like me. And so we're really pushing them into those spaces. The CTE Foundation has been one of our strongest partners to help develop that. I see now more than ever as that work is getting accelerated. We're getting more and more young people into internships, on the job, seeing those opportunities, and on our campuses, getting those dual college experiences. We all know that the Surgeon General last year, the year before, declared a national emergency around student wellness. It continues to be something that is very difficult in education for us to grapple with. We do see an increasing number of young people with anxiety. And this is a generation that really talks openly about mental health. And they're probably our strongest partners in helping us build supports for young people around these issues. We've created a team at Sonoma County under Dr. Harrington's leadership that relates to behavioral health and wellness. We do have a team of therapists, counselors at the county office who are constantly doing work. They're able to get out into our rural districts that just simply couldn't afford something like this, to get that time with those young students. And they immediately pivot when we have an emergency. And so when we had the bomb threat at Sonoma Valley, the team was there. When we've had the issues in Santa Rosa, the team is there the next morning. So they become very involved in those emergency scenarios and offer support when that's needed. We've also got a strong initiative going around creating wellness centers. So a wellness center is a space on a high school, a middle school, where young people can just kind of pop in, they can self-regulate, there's a trusted adult there, there is linkages to mental health support, there's the opportunity to have safe conversations, and we do find students who self-refer, and we find out about suicidal ideation or issues of bulimia or drug and alcohol issues come up a lot. And just having a space, a hub, a resource center on our campuses, we're finding to be a strength in the opportunity to step in when those issues are interfering with a young person's ability to access curriculum, to do well academically. So increasingly, we see those at our high schools. We're really proud of that work. It gives us an opportunity to kind of divert some of the discipline issues, right? A lot of those discipline issues tend to be tied to peak emotions or internal issues. And so we see this as a way to kind of take the pressure off that and avoid those issues from coming to a head and avoid cases of violence or self-harm. You heard a little bit about third grade literacy, and for sure it is one of our most critical problems, not only in Sonoma County, but in the state of California and nationally. I read an article that said that 60% of the state of California is literate, if you can imagine that. And I think a good way to think about third grade literacy and why we constantly pound on third grade literacy is when our young people come to us for their education, and now we're starting younger and younger. We teach 4-year-olds now. When our young people come to us, those first few years are really about learning letter sounds, phonemic awareness, blending consonants and vowels. We spend a lot of time building those micro skills for reading. 4th grade, those kids get handed textbooks. 4th grade, those kids get handed worksheets. So suddenly, the learning shifts to being dominantly text-based. And so if you don't have a 3rd grader that can access that, 4th grade to senior year is a really hard journey for them. The statistics on that are so strong that I tell people, if you show me a 3rd grader that can read, you're showing me a high school graduate. Those two things strongly correlate. So it's a problem that we all have to be a part of. Not only is the Sonoma County Alliance a part of the solution, the Made in Santa Rosa group is working on this issue. We're working with K3I Innovation, we're working with Read on Sonoma. I really see this as a community problem. It's an all hands on deck problem, and appreciate everyone that's taking on a small part of this. Part of what we're doing in Sonoma County Office of Education is making sure that our educators understand the science of reading. And the science of reading is just a good way to say that it's not whole language sight words and phonics. It's a blend of the two, and our educators have to stay in that space in order to be successful. And we're really building capacity. When we're offering those cohorts, we're increasingly seeing big groups of 50 educators at a time going through. So we want to make sure that those teachers in the classroom understand those elements of literacy, and we're collectively doing a big push on this. Our very future as graduates, our graduation rate in the future depends on getting this right. So this is one of our top priorities, especially for our multilingual learners. You know, that's difficult enough to come into a classroom environment learning a new language. One of the things that we're proudest of is we host a multilingual learner day. We bring in parents of students who are multilingual learners. The entire day is in Spanish. We answer their questions, everything from, you know, how do I get my kids signed up for school lunch, to how do I support my students at home. And we're finding a lot of strength in just helping that particular group of people who are so invested in their children understand how to navigate the American education system. As I mentioned, we're educating fourth graders. About 3 years ago, there was a state report that focused on we have an achievement gap in education. And what that means is our students of color, our socioeconomic disadvantaged students are just not having the same outcomes as our other students, our white students, our affluent students. And if you go back to the pandemic, you know, that was really in our face. We had kids who had college-educated parents at home, or grandparents, or happened to be in Tahoe, doing their education lessons, getting support, getting enrichment. And then we had young people in this county who couldn't even figure out how to access Wi-Fi, right? Or whose parents had to work and left those children at home under a sibling's care. But the report said that equity gap is actually coming into schools, and that our young children, 3 and 4 years old, are coming in with those disparities. So the state, as California, has really led the nation on let's educate those younger students. Let's make sure that they have a rich educational experience that fourth grade year. Particularly our multilingual learners is a great place. Those 4-year-old brains pick up language like this. This is a great place to prepare them academically. And we do believe that we're going to start to see those dividends as those students get into the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade years. Starting with the class of 2030, we have a brand new expectation to get a high school diploma here in the state of California, and that is our ethnic studies course. I tell people that ethnic studies was just the wrong title for this course. What ethnic studies is it's just a fair and accurate representation of American history and the contribution of all peoples in this great nation. If you're interested in both our handout and on the flyer, there's a QR code so that you can look at that curriculum. But it really takes each of those groups and talks through their great contributions and gets away from some of the more negative stories. You know, yes, slavery, but also there were some incredible contributions from our African Americans that have made this country great. You know, yes, genocide of Native tribes, but also there are some great contributions by those tribes to the American stories. So it's really making sure that our young people have that a big driver of this is we want young people to have a sense of pride and to understand that they are a part of the American story, and develop that draw in, that buy-in to this work and to this country and this democracy. So you'll see that coming out in 2030. Some of our districts have already launched that program. We do have young people that are in that story now, but by 2030, all our districts will be teaching that to their students. And that's a high school level course. And if you've read the recent headlines, you know that there's a budget crisis. We've seen a lot of layoffs taking place. I think there was 83 in Santa Rosa City Schools, 30 in Sonoma Valley, I think around 15 in Petaluma. But our districts are having to make some really brutal and difficult decisions, and I think a way to understand that is that we had one-time COVID money, and so our districts really stocked up on supports for young people to help mitigate the impact of COVID on their education. We have declining enrollment. The Press Democrat headline today talks about how the population in Sonoma County is shrinking. It is shrinking, and also fewer and fewer young families are here. So we've built a lot of schools throughout this county, and we've hired teachers for a certain number of students, but those students are just not materializing. And so our school boards are going to increasingly have to make some difficult decisions around staffing, around facilities, as we continue to kind of right-size to the reality that's facing Sonoma County today. And of course, the state revenue always impacts what we do. The cost of living increase for education is coming in around 1%. And we have districts who have committed through their contracts to increase salaries 9%, 12%. And so they still have to make good on those commitments in the face of this financial crisis. So just be prepared for some headlines and some tough times for all of our students, and our school boards are really going to continue to make some difficult decisions. As I talked about, that we play a role when districts are unable to make their budgets. We're in conversation with about 17 districts that we have concerns about their budgets, some greater than others. Santa Rosa City Schools in 3 years out needs to cut $17 million. And that's difficult, and that's going to hurt. That's going to impact the classroom and be hard for all those students and the educators in that system. So I always kind of like to forecast that the per pupil spending under this governor and this legislator has been pretty strong. We're no longer at the bottom of the barrel for the per pupil. So while that can be a confusing headline, the per pupil is up. The problem is enrollment is down, and so those budgets are looking really difficult. So layoff notices, schools closing are really going to be our future. One of the initiatives that we've launched in the last year that we're really proud of is just a small nonprofit fund to kind of help make sure that when teachers want to do a special classroom activity, do something exciting with science or art, that there is a little budget for that, and we do that fundraising for our community foundations, our education foundations. Each of our districts, as you can imagine, have their own distinct education foundation. I'm sure some of you have business owners, know that they reach out to you and ask for your help. This particular fund is kind of unique. It's based off of one that's in Marin County for years, that's had a lot of success. It's now expanding to Mendocino County. But this fund, every dollar you give us, we divide 65,000 ways. And what that means is we're able to take somebody who might not be tied to a particular district or school or issue, but wants to be a part of the solution countywide. We're collecting funds that then get distributed equally amongst all of our education foundations. We're finding that there are a lot of people who just get excited about that, right? I just want to give to education. Once it's in the hands of our education foundations, they decide the local priorities and divert that money however they see fit. But in our county, we've got a Sonoma Valley Ed Foundation raising over $1 million, and we've got Cloverdale that I think raised about $13,000. So this is a way to kind of level that playing field and make sure that every student in Sonoma County gets a little something from a donor's contribution. All right, I'll turn it over to questions. I don't know if you want Larkin and I to come up, but it's an exciting time in education. There's a lot to be hopeful about, but we should be somber and serious about the challenges that we're faced, and all come together as a community to get them right.
All right, another round of applause for our great speakers today. Just a few questions. So Paul is out there with the microphone, and we have our first one. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. Question is about phones. As a parent of a 9th grader and a 5th grader, as any other parent I'm sure can attest, it's a constant challenge to balance the phone use. And at school, it was prohibited for my children through elementary and middle school, but then in high school it's still allowed at campus, and that creates a lot of challenges. But not just the phone, but also just the amount of kind of schoolwork that gets done online or has to be submitted. So I guess the question is, has there been any thought around limiting that even more and helping parents and schools keep kids focused and not as distracted?
Yeah, I think that's an ongoing dialogue. Many of you know in France, they've just banned them from schools altogether. As a former high school principal, mother of 5 daughters, I have a very strong opinion about the real damage. I mean, lives are lost, honestly, because of that device for our young people. Growth is stunted, and, they're exposed to things beyond their intellectual maturity. The way that the state of California is handling it is just pushing it down as a local issue. So that means that a local school board can adopt a policy if they so choose. Otherwise, high school can select their policy, and individual teachers select their policies. So at this point in the game, it's really left up to individual teachers. But it's something that we're constantly talking about. We see the real harm just as you as parents do. And right now there just hasn't been sort of a flat universal policy that's getting put into place. And because the state of California believes so strongly in local control, I really doubt that will happen. So the advocacy will need to be at the high school level or the school board level.
Good morning, Victor McKnight. I serve on the Northwest School District Board. And I have a question around retaining and attracting quality educators. I have a 25-year-old, my son's 25-year-old girlfriend is already an ex-teacher. And we're seeing that more and more, and I'm concerned about how we're going to educate the next generation when it's tough to attract teachers.
Yeah. The majority of our teacher workforce does not complete a full 5 years before they leave the profession. And we see fewer already nationally. Before the pandemic, we had seen a drop of about 30% of young people just simply opting out of choosing teaching as a profession. In the pandemic, we saw almost half of those students leave those programs. So we are in a real crisis when it comes to our educators, and we're simply not able to recruit them. More and more young millennials are passing on this as a career. I can't imagine why. Right? I don't think we've told a good story to the community about just how joyful this profession can be. I think that in education, we feel like there's a lot of disrespect and discounting of expertise that gets thrown at us. As a school board member, you know that there's a lot of chaos and a lot of this political climate that gets thrown at our schools. So there's a lot about this story that is hard for us to overcome when we're talking to young people. I think there can be some traction around things like student loan forgiveness, traction around subsidized housing. The Sonoma County office, my board has a subsidized housing program that they're working on to be able to draw people to Sonoma County. Even when we interview, a lot of times young people are like, "This is great, I want this job," but I've just looked at rent and it's impossible. The math doesn't add up. And we've got to boost those salaries. You know, there's very little about those salaries that is compelling to a young person. So it's got to be attacked on all angles. And you're absolutely right. It's a state, national crisis that we're gonna really hit a pain point in the next 5 to 10 years as our older educators retire, and there's just nobody to replace them.
I'm on the CAC for the Sonoma State University, and I know that we just had a meeting about even the new teachers that are coming in. The testing is there's so much testing that goes into becoming an educator. If you don't pass the test, then you don't get in, and these tests are expensive for these people who are going into careers that aren't going to pay them very much. And like for me to become an educator, I had to take a test and I had to know all of the science, math, history, PE, like every single subject I was going to teach from K through 8. It was 3 different tests that was combined with those different things, and so if you miss it by 1 point, you have to retake the test. And I know Sonoma State is doing some really great work on talking with legislators about the testing that needs to be done, because in my belief, you can be a teacher in your heart. Like that is where teachers come from. It's you can learn the rest of the stuff, but it all comes from your heart. And so we really have to rethink the way that we're training teachers and if we're going to grow the workforce.
All right, over here, sorry, Ryan. Hello. Larkin, I see the work that you're doing every day and the way that God made you and your DNA and how you're changing all of these things in our schools, and I just thank you. Thank you. But today my question is going to go to Dr. Carter. Dr. Carter, I'm going to throw you a little bit of a hardball here, so bear with me. There's kind of a big fractured conversation going around the county about school resource officers. And I, for one, have a child at Rancho Cotati and love seeing a uniformed school officer on campus. I've had conversations with them about the things that they know that other parents and school people don't know are happening, the relationships that they have within the student realm. I'm curious if you have thoughts, opinions, or comments that you could make to us about where you see the school resource officer conversation going, and if we can expect to see them in every school in Sonoma County that's a middle school and high school.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and there's compelling arguments on both sides, right? Like, of course, they can be a part of the solution. And if you look at, the Santa Rosa City School data, there are calls being made to law enforcement every single day. They are on those campuses. And so, it's worth considering, does it make sense to have somebody there who already knows the children, who sees them at football games, who understands that there was a chemistry test and understands some of the dynamic of the young people there. I've seen that as a huge advantage, and I think that's what Rancho Cotati High School community experiences. But at the same time, we are hearing from our students of color that there is trauma, there is anxiety, there can be over-policing of young people of color in those scenarios. I don't think it's a binary. I don't think it's a either or. I do think that there is a middle space. There's a group that's meeting in Santa Rosa City Schools right now that's really trying to reimagine, right? How can we have school resource officers that are reflective of our county and our values? I think more than anything, when I read an article about a school resource officer incident that's gone wrong, I always go back to the school administrator. As a high school administrator, my school resource officer didn't interact with young people in any sort of disciplinary way without my say-so. And so they are oftentimes the valve, and I think where we got awry in some of the more egregious stories, particularly in Santa Rosa City Schools, is, we had school resource officers taking phones from young people. Like that is absolutely not their place. That is where, a site principal should be stepping in. So they shouldn't, law enforcement should only be involved in those things that are mandated by law. An education code says that school principals have to, it is a requirement. We have to call law enforcement on about 6 offenses that take place in our campus. So I think it's a place where we've got to try new things, we've got to develop greater levels of trust. As a high school principal, I've had a very positive experience with my school resource officer. We actually made the school resource officer a member of the teaching staff. So my school resource officer taught a career technical education class, and the young men who signed up for that class were probably exactly who should be connected to law enforcement. And so he was able to just develop, he did ride-alongs, and he was able to develop these relationships with young people who might kind of have been on the fence on where they were going to go from a career, from a, lifestyle incarceration almost pathway, and he was able to be a mentor. He was able to just talk to them and support them. And I'd say 99% of the time, those were the same young people who were like, hey, like something's going down, across. And so it became a preventative measure, but that takes a very firm mindset about the role of law enforcement on campus, and I think we've got to continue to engage in thinking about what does that role look like, how do we define that, and how do we make sure that our students of color are protected in any sort of effort that way.
Hi, I just want to share a thank you and a question very quickly. So I think during the workforce, your college and career piece, there was more about college and less about workforce, and you're doing some amazing things in helping us educate the new construction. We have 83 kids, as you know. We framed almost an entire bottom of a house Saturday at Almarosa. So in my mind, my question is, how do we get to parents? The overwhelming amount of kids are still not going to college in Sonoma County. I will put probably 70 kids into the trades in late June after they graduate, high school seniors, but how do we get to parents to let them understand there are so many more options than not going to college? And that's been something that hasn't been well done yet at this point in time.
Yep, agreed. I think one of the most alarming national trends is 25% of our young men, ages 18 to 24, are not in college and are not working. So these are young men. Yeah. These are young men that are, playing video games, maybe smoking weed, that are like just aimless, right? And that's so critical to our workforce. And to me, that's a failing of the education system, is that we haven't sat down across from that young man and said, what excites you, right? Is it computer coding? Is it video games? Is it hands-on learning? Is it, and I think one of the most critical areas to really strengthen is our school counselors, right? Our school counselors are very well versed in those college application opportunities, but are they as well versed in our career technical education efforts? So I think that's a critical point. I think making sure that we're able to identify those young people who are most excited about those hands-on learning opportunities earlier and giving them strong pathways. Once those young people are out in the workforce and they see their passions getting validated, you know, at the CT Foundation, we had a young man named Pedro who just talked about, you know, once he was out there that he just saw his value and saw his worth. So we have to do a better job in those partnerships, or that number of young men who are just not landing is going to be critical. More and more women are entering college, and that's great to see, but you know, if we have that kind of percentage just dropping out of the workforce, that's a national disaster just waiting to happen.
And I think that that is the importance of shifting the way we're educating currently, because we educate in a box, right? Everybody learns this, and it's just this one pathway. And then we lose students. You get into middle and high school, and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to school today, it's boring, right? But what if we reimagine the way we're educating, because we have a new group of students, and we think about maybe we can teach math, history, language arts from someone who likes music. We can teach that all through music. We can teach that all through, you know, building a car, building a house. I mean, those are all different ways of learning, and we have to stop doing what we've been doing for 100 years, and we have to reimagine it because we have a different population, and clearly what we're doing is not working. So just gotta throw that out there. Just change the whole education system.
You know, again, like you're speaking directly to my question, and that's with regards to the innovation and the creativity with regards of how we're educating our students, understanding the need with the workforce, and again, here in representation of the 100, I'm also a board member for the Next Gen's Trade Academy. But the idea, and I'd like to know both of your thoughts, again, Mark and Dr. Carter, your thoughts with regards to the conversations of the value of a college education. Again, as we shift, and we've been pushing a lot of the STEM occupations, but the idea of these conversations that are, let's say, detrimental to the value of a college education, and again, prior to the shifting and the innovation of how we educate our students, I just want to know your thoughts with regards to the conversations that devalue college education.
For me, I went to college knowing exactly what I wanted to do, so I got to take the classes that excited me. I wanted to be a teacher, and so I went to be a teacher, and I took all the classes that were about that. And I did much better in college than I did in high school, because I just didn't care about triangles, you know, it wasn't like a thing for me. For those of you who love those things, but math and all of that, aside from being able to teach students, was what excited me. So learning about what I was excited about is what motivated me to do my very best, and that's why I think we need to start bringing that down. I think a college education, when you're motivated and excited, is important, but I also know that I learned my best teaching by teaching. So when I had a heart for kids and I had a heart for education, going into the classroom, I couldn't learn how to get Johnny out from under the desk until I had Johnny under the desk and I had to figure it out, right? And when you have people who can mentor you, who've been there, you know, it's all about that desire to learn, and we need to, as educators in an educational system, spark that desire to continue to learn and grow. And final answer.
You're absolutely right. You know, TikTok, Instagram, a lot of social media is just really downplaying college. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's saddled with debt. Both Sonoma State University and Santa Rosa Junior College are seeing enrollment plummet, and that's a California trend, that's a national trend. And yet a college education continues to be just one of the most safe, secure pathways to the middle class. And we need those individuals who are educated. So I go back to, you know, and that's kind of all the masters that we need to serve. I had a teacher on my staff who, as a young student, was taking the classes that his counselor told him to take. His senior year, he was really excelling on the football field, and he got an offer from an NCAA school. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to college. he goes back and tells his counselor, and his counselor says, no, you can't, because you did not take the college articulated coursework. So we've got to make sure that those doors are open for young people. We've got to tell a better story about the value of that. We've got to impact that student debt so that the ROI on that starts to make sense for young people. But, you know, we have to be very careful about closing a door for a child, even though they get excited about a career technical education pathway or some other pursuit. We've got to always balance that to make sure that those doors aren't closed way prematurely for them to eliminate those opportunities.
All right, well, thank you, Martin. Thank you for coming here so early this morning and sharing your ideas, your thoughts, the difficulties of education in Sonoma County. We have a lot of work to do, and with that work, Sonoma County Alliance has Bocce for Bucks, right? So please, look to support Bocce for Books this year. We're trying to raise $18,000 for 3 new machines, book machines, in elementary schools, which helps reading and making those steps from 3rd grade to 4th grade. I feel like I was probably Johnny underneath the desk back in the day. It makes me appreciate my mom. She taught 2nd grade for 30 years. And that, I just remember correcting math documents. She'd come home and it'd be 6th grade and she'd be like, all right, Paul, here you go. And it was 2 + 2, so it was good. I'd like to thank Amy Carter for being here, Mark Staff, Renoso is the mayor of Windsor. Next month, GMM, Press Democrat. We have Eric Johnson, the new CEO, Lorenz Bailey, which we all know, wonderful lady, Adriana Gutierrez, and Kerry Benefield showing up to talk about the Press Democrat, media, Sonoma Media Investments, the whole group. We are a membership organization. Thank you for showing up this morning. I apologize for running late, but a great topic, a lot of good questions. Please bring guests. As I said, we're a membership organization. We grow with membership. So think of people who can contribute, add, and bring more relevance to Sonoma County Alliance as we move into the future. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
You